Okay, so none of you will guess what we've got here. And it's the Fidelity. And it's the 2000, so it's the Cybernet 134 Fidelity. So this gentleman's paid an arm and a leg for this in a box. It's come with the factory original mic. Come with all kinds of bits in there. I think we'll do it with the standard replacement mic and then move on to the factory mic when I do the deviation properly. Make sure there's no bits on there. So I had scheduled this is a customer set. I was scheduling to do an unusual set, or unusual for me, because we've never had one before. I was going to do a Midland 77 250K, which is a CPT only set, and it's the little bit later than usual Power Max. But the funny thing is, I have seen two of these before, but I've never been able to get 4 watts out of them, so it's Power Min. So we'll see whether we can do it on this. Now, the two I've seen before were customer sets, and I'm going back years, like when they were, I'm going back to the 90s. So since we've been doing this channel, we've not had a 250K. I've bought two. This is the third one I've now bought. I paid good money for this one. I bought two previously, and you know, spares and repairs. One was incomplete, and the other was a half-hearted conversion. Somebody tried to turn it into UK channels, which you can't. You're not allowed to do. So pointless. So we'll see whether they are any good. They do seem to suffer from the fronts easily being scratched and ruined, and this one doesn't have its gold knobs, but I seem to recall that our kind benefactor Alan, who kindly sent me a battery charger yesterday, which I appreciate, thank you Alan, I recall that he sent us some gold knobs for one. So we'll use our little power lead stub for this. I could have not disconnected yesterday's Rotel 220. I don't like to do two Cybernet 134s one after the other, but we haven't got the picture-in-picture at the moment with me having broken the link lead between the secondary mixer and the main one, waiting for a replacement one to arrive. So I want to do sets that it doesn't matter if we don't show you everything. I don't want to show you something like the 250K, which you may have also never seen before. You may never have wanted to see one before. I'm wondering where my link lead is. It's still plugged into my test set lead. It's still plugged into the test set behind me. In fact, I'm going to just take my initial deviation figure whilst it is plugged into the one behind me. Now, last time I used the standard replacement mic for Maxon, it didn't work properly. So we'll see whether it works on this set or whether I'm going to have to redo the plug. So we'll power it up, 13.8 volts. I'll select channel 20, it's come on channel 1. We'll key it up into the other test set. Voila! The deviation is about 1.5. So that will need to come up. So come back to that test set right at the end, because I've said before, my main test set here, sometimes the deviation meter on it's working properly and sometimes it isn't, so I just need to verify it with the one behind. Well, taking some action about that, but things have to happen. Right, apart from that, I'll run through this with you. Put the clipboard down. I've actually brought it in from the other room. this mic is playing up, so that's I need to redo the lead. It's failed just there. Just goes to show how many flexings they get when I use them as test mics. Okay, so I'm going to put the test set on in the 3-watt scale. So I'm this is going to be so frustrating with this mic. It's 3 watts to the dot on channel 20. On channel 40 it's 2.9. And on channel 1 it's 3 watts. Back to channel 20, 809 milliamps. Meter lamp's working. And that's all we can fill in. So I'm gonna have to repair this lead, or it's going to be very, very slow and frustrating. I'm not going to show you all of this. All I'm going to do is take the clamp off. We've got the teeny weeny screws back in stock, thanks to Knights at Curtin in Lindsay who sell them. Right, so what I'm going to do is quite simply cut it off at that point. And we'll start again from there. Right, so I've made a mess of it. It's supposed to have a strain relief piece of sleeving and I've missed it out. So if that was a customer job it'd have to be redone, but it's our test mic. That's not going to last long. Right, where were we? So when I key this thing up, it says 4 on the meter, which is what it should say. Let's check the frequency. So it should be 27.79125. It's 27.79088. So it's dropped, which is normal enough. That needs pulling up. So we'll check the receiver. I'm going to make sure the signal generator is on exactly the same frequency, so we're not testing the receiver at the correct frequency when we know perfectly well it's off. Okay, I've done that. Just switching on the cyanide meter, and we'll plug the cyanide meter into the back of the radio. Not having you see these as clean at the back. 1091. Make sure I'm in the right mode and not the wrong one, and that I haven't. That's the 0.3. That's the one which I'm supposed to be testing it in. Not going up a scale like I erroneously did on the last set. So for 12 dB, we're not going to get better than this. it's doing 0.25 microvolts. For 10 dB, it's doing 0.21. For 20 dB, I've had some good sets so good recently like this that I begin to think the attenuator's faulty on the signal generator, and then you put something on that's awful and you think, ah no, the signal generator's fine. 0.67. Squelch at full. .30 microvolts is too weak, and at threshold is 0.53, which is excellent. So hopefully we won't have all the hours of work changing a dozen capacitors to get the squelch right like I did the last set. May as well check public address. Is it on the mic gain? Testing 1, 2, yeah, it's on the mic gain. Right, that's that done. Time to go inside. Well, so far it's a lovely set. There was a time when people, before I was doing this channel, when CB sets could be had for a lot less money of this era. If you'd have put a Rotel 230 and one of these side by side, there was a time when you'd have got 30 quid for the Rotel 230 and you'd be lucky to get a tenner for this. And the same applies with the Binatone 5-star. You could have put a Rotel 240 and probably just managed to get 40 quid for it. Could have got a Binatone 5-star, you'd be lucky to get £12 for it. Yet the 5-star is a better set. Right, that's where we need to put this on a piece of bubble wrap on the bench behind me. So there's no silly shenanigans inside there. There's no bulging capacitors. I could even say it smells of newish radio still. High-low power still on the back. Okay, low power is doing 100 milliwatts. So I'm going to start with doing the VCO. I've just had one of the elderly ladies I do shopping for. She lives in Grantham, so it's 7.7 miles. I go and see her on a Tuesday, which is yesterday, and I go and see her on a Thursday, which is tomorrow. I do some shopping for her, and I'm paid for that, something towards that time and cost of doing it. Not a lot, but something. And she's just phoned me. Would I go and get her a bottle of milk? So I'm going to have to drive 7 point something miles to get some milk, and then drive a mile and a half to her house to give it her, and then come home. I hope she does give me something for that time. I'm not due to see you today, dear. Well, we've got 2 organ tunings booked this afternoon. So I'm trying to get this done in the morning, whilst trying to paint bits of my own organ. So we want this on channel 40, don't we? Channel 40, and we want 4 volts. So it's a little tiny bit high. I don't like this wax to have gone in that trimmer. I hope it hasn't. So shall we turn it to the right or shall we turn it to the left today? Because it's totally random. Why can't I get the tool in? Well, that's because it's got some wax. Right, that'll do me. It's going to transmit. No, that is out. Back to receive, back to transmit, back to receive. Go to channel 1, should be around 1.8, 2.3 volts ish. 2.17 on receive, 2.2 on transmit. That's done. Right, we'll tune up the transmitter. So these three, I'm on low power still. So I'm going to stay on my 3 watt scale until we can work full scale deflection. That's correct. Little tiny bit there. Little tiny bit there. So we need to quickly maximize these 3. I say that because the PA can't sustain the kind of power I need to max it to. Sometimes these will produce 5.5 watts for a short period, and it's all part of the setup procedure and not to be left like that. So here goes. That's got wear on it. That changes scales as we're now coming up to 3.5 watts. Well, that's not fitting properly today, so I'll have to use a different one for now. So we're just a shade away from 4 watts now. It's going to make it difficult to tune because it needs to be above 4 watts for me to do this. Just try again with the previous coil. Helps if I'm on channel 20, doesn't it? So what I'm going to do, in order to balance this, I'm going to up the voltage to 14.4 volts in the hope. I don't like doing things like this. Now we're at 14.4 volts and see whether I can get that little bit more out of the transmitter just so I can turn it back down again. yes, we've now got the magic 4.4. Okay, so now I'm going to turn down L4 clockwise so that it is 4.4, because I've now got 4.5. It's that I needed, and I just want to turn it anti-clockwise so it starts moving. We've now got to about 4.2. Now I'm going to take the voltage back to where it should be, and that's probably going to be where we are with the power output. The answer is 3.9. Bearing in mind this test set's pretty tight because it's selective, so you put this on another laboratory instrument, it's probably doing 4.2. But this deducts the interference which is generated. Okay. Channel 40, 3.8, channel 1, 3.9. Good, well that's going to be drawing more current now, so put it back to channel 20. 1.08. Not really a lot considering we're getting another watt out of it. So it's the old, we reserve the right to change specifications. Individual sets may differ from, from actual output and all that. You can get 10 sets all the same. You can get 10 cars all the same. They're going to do different fuel economy. Let's see whether that low power switch is just a matter of it being dirty. It is, I'm sure. Let's pop a bit of service oil on there. These are 100 ohms, but we can't get 100 ohm skeleton presets, so when we have to change them, we put 200 ohms in. There we go, 400 milliwatts. So I'll tell you what, we'll put it on frequency now. So 2779125 I'm looking for, 27091 is where we are. (2779125). Now, out of interest, I'll see whether we can set the deviation. So I want this preset to its central position, and I want that to be 2.2 average to 2.5 absolute maximum. Voila. So that's at the moment where I see it should be. I'll be verifying that on the other test set. Power on the meter. From low power. It's now a little bit high. And now reading 4. Remember, that's relative power, so it's all subject to SWR. Only reads 4 watts on that meter if set to do that and on a dummy load. So we'll move on to the receiver. put an S9 equivalent signal, 100 microvolt. I'm looking at my oscilloscope, and we're going to maximise the detector. I'm glad when that link leads back so we can put picture in picture back on. I'll tell you what, folks, that was out. So that's going to make people sound a little bit quiet and garbled. Might make the sensitivity worse now I've fixed it, but you know what I mean. Right, so now we're looking at the SINAD meter. I've just turned down the attenuator on the signal range, so we've got about 4 decibels showing, and we want to try and improve that. Slight improvement there, surprisingly. They reduced the attenuator a bit. Let's do the IF, so I want a bit more signal. You get the extra circuit on this model, which you don't get on the Rotel 220, for example, or the York 861. That was slightly out. There we go, we're done. Let's get a new reading. So for 12 dB, we now have 0.22. 0.2. I could actually change scales and get a more accurate reading, but I don't need to really. It really doesn't matter. Well, there you go. It says 0.24 on the other scale, which makes it worse. But you know, I'm stick to the scale I was on. And for 20 dB, I've got 0.7, which theoretically is worse, but then I've done the detector. Right, we need to deal with the squelch unless it's dealt with itself. Turn the squelch to full. So I'm at 1 microvolt, 3 microvolts, 10 microvolts, 30 microvolts, which is where it came in before. 100, it's exactly right. So doing the detector has fixed the squelch. Now we'll check it to sensitivity. Set squelch on the radio. Signal generator back on. 0.85. Good hysteresis. They're not the best squelch in the world, but it tracks it alright. So back to a 100 microvolt signal, and let's see what the S meter makes of that. You know what? We never did it before, did we, on that? We didn't. And I've retuned the receiver. So it isn't reading right, and what I can say is it's 300 microvolts instead of 100 microvolts. So that's what we'll write down. Bit of a flawed reading. There we go. PA works. We're done. We haven't touched squelch, which is there. We're done. Well, I may as well check the deviation back on the other test set behind me while I've got the set open. I'll turn round, plug it into the Quartz Lock 282A test set. Change glasses. This test set should have illuminated meters, but none of them light up, so you can imagine what it looks like. Wallow. Good. I'll wipe the fingerprints off it. Right, I'll switch the test gear off. Put the lid back on. I don't think it's 9 o'clock yet. Oh, you get the bigger speaker on this. I've forgotten about that. That's another thing you get. Yeah. Not sure how you're supposed to put these on. So as I do this, I'm still processing yesterday's on the air test for the Rotel 220. We'll just need to finish that off and upload it. So we've kind of finished today's CB before finishing the videos for yesterday's. That was a lot of work, that Rotel 220. 4 sessions. I'm not even going to charge him for everything he's had. I'll take it beyond the value of the set. Or shall we say perceived value. I think that's tight because that is not quite in the right position. Right, onto its own speaker and plug in the roof aerial, which is the Antron 99 type. Let's see if any of the good buddies are out of bed. One Anna Roger. You know what? It's dead, isn't it? I've got S2 of residual background noise. Nothing on any channel. You would think that this radio is as deaf as a post, yet it's really, really sensitive. And I'm always harping on that a lot of sets like this are more sensitive than what we get today. You know, we did that T800 Mark III, the 2023 one last week. You know, that was really sensitive as well, and you don't often get that on a new set. We'll be looking at the latest version of the Thunderbolt 3000, I think, on Thursday, subject to time. So I'll see how that is. Now that's the one which really, if you're into going on CPT and flicking between AM and FM, it does it seamlessly from the front panel. Right, there we are, we're done. We've heard nobody on it. We'll do a test later on. None of the CBs are out of bed. Thanks for watching.